Okay guys, thanks for tuning in. You are on the narrow path. Hope you're enjoying so far what I've been doing. Now this little scenario, this story actually precedes the last video. This happened just before, so I don't know if you've been keeping up to date. This is basically what happened. Is I moved into this guy John's house. Started working, worked for Italian bloke, started getting up to no good, and then I went and worked for a Macedonian guy, and then I started working for this Lebanese guy, building his houses. He had 3 townhouses in western suburbs, right? And I just got to be careful with what I say, because these are very known people, so I can't point anywhere near their direction. But let me give you a backdrop of what sort of people these were. The Lebanese fella, he was down for 2 murders, so he done prison for 2 murders. His best mate was a known hitman, and I used to go with a Lebanese fella, let's just call his name Jimmy, right? I used to go with Jimmy. So while I'm building his 3 townhouses there in the west, I'd go there, hang out, go back to his place after, meet his missus and that, and then he'd do really, I guess, debt collecting, like he'd lend money to these big dealers, and I'd go with him and he'd be picking up, like 120 grand, 150 grand, stuff like that. Just wheeling and dealing. And just before I get to the main point of what happened there, I remember one day his brother come over. He just fully rebuilt, brand new, this RX-7. Brand new motor, best of the best, ever the Mickey Mouse. And there's a group of us standing out in front of Jimmy's joint, and he's like, "Oh, let me drive the car," and he's like, "Oh no, I haven't even run the engine in. Everything is brand new, like brand new paint job, like everything brand new." He's like, "Nah, come on, let me drive it." "All right, just be careful, because I'm about to run it in, take it up to Sydney and back." So we're all standing there in front of these townhouses. They just had been, one of them had just been finished, so we used to hang in there. There was 3 of them there next to each other, and in front of it there was like a big empty block, maybe about 2 acres, and there was a road going around it in the square, so we could watch everything. And he goes, say, let's say north of us, turns right again, and on the 3rd right turn he'd be coming back towards us, which would be west, right? And he's sitting there on the corner, and he starts smoking them up, bags them up, and he rips it, goes fishtailing, bang, T-boned it straight in, the hitman's parked car. And we're just watching. We could see he lost it, and he's like just looking at us sideways, like head straight through the window. I'm in hysterics. I'm uncontrollably laughing on the ground. Like I couldn't. But then once the other guy's like, "Oh, you alright, kind of snapped me out of it. But they were animals, if I can put it like that. Like the things they would talk about, what they got up to. One of the old prisons that they served time in, it was Pentridge, so they were part of them sort of days. They were very hectic, dangerous people. For example, like I got in a fight with these guys once in Altona. Basically, I was just hanging out with them. I just bumped into them walking down the beach, and there was like 8 people there. There was a few chicks, so I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go, mingle with these guys and see if I can tune any of the girls, And obviously they didn't like it. After a while, ended up falling out with them, getting in a fight, and then they start pulling out knives and scissors, so I've legged it. gone back to his joint, and his answer was like, yeah, he's a 38, you know, shoot one, the rest run, you know, like, which, you know, that was a bit too much for me, you know, but anyway, so this one night, or one day, I remember I was in the sand pit, and I basically left the church. No one really reached out, or I was in this confusion or whatever, even if people did reach out. I was starting to doubt all this stuff about God, and you know, I'd stopped going to church, and I'm standing there in front of the mixer shoveling sand in, and I'm like, you know what, F you God and F your people, that's it, I'm done with you, I'm leaving the church, I'm never going back, I don't want nothing to do with you, you know. And I just felt him, you know, like a still voice, I guess, inside me going, like, but I love you, you know. And just with that, like, I just broke down crying. Like, I'm on the sandpit, thank God no one seen me, I was there by myself on the work site, you know. I'm crying, but I didn't know what to do with it. And then later on, you know, I'm like, I'm sorry God, you know, like, help me, you know, like, yeah, I was basically confused, like paranoia, schizophrenia, I guess, still in the background, a lot of undealt issues, and I guess a deep dark demon that these, you know, prophets woke up inside me, which I used to have nightmares about that incident ever since I was a little kid. But then when I started getting into hard drugs, you know, I stopped having nightmares. Well, this particular nightmare, which I'll get into another time, but then it kicked off again. Anyway, I'm going back with Jimmy, back to his joint. We're taking a bunch of stuff on his little truck back to his house because he didn't want it stolen, because I think we're doing the second or third townhouse. And now it's late at night, you know, and we're driving, there's no cars on the road, and his Bedford van just stopped in the middle, no lights or nothing, in the middle of the road, and he's trying to slow down, brake, and all his skirting come off, like, off his top of the truck and gone straight through the Bedford truck back window. So they're pulled over, and stuff's everywhere, all over the ground, you know, but he didn't actually hit the truck, I mean the Bedford van. So they've pulled over on the side of the road, but there's only one lane each way, so they're kind of half up on the nature strip, half on the road. And I'm on the back of the truck, I'm starting to load it back up, this skirting, and all I hear is, I've just dived. To be honest, it felt, I didn't even think about it, it was more like I was just pushed out of the way, really. And this car has just gone bang, straight where I was standing, like half the bonnet was under the back of the truck, you know, like how it did not hit me, I couldn't, you know, the only thing I can picture is that day I'm like, F you God, blah blah blah, and then I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I reckon if I wasn't sincere in my apology, I reckon I'd be dead, you know. The car was that jammed under there. The bloke was drinking, old wog bloke, he was going to pick his son up from soccer, you know, which I'm sure Jimmy would have extorted him, because he's like, oh yeah, you know, I'll take care of it. He rings his mate up with the tow truck comes, couldn't even rip the car out, you know. He had to drive with the truck forward, and then the tow truck had to slacken the chain, and then he just had to rip it out while he was dragging the car forward. Like, it was really jammed in there. Total write-off. Yeah, never heard anything about it afterwards, but I ended up dropping off them boys. Like, when he was starting to want to give me guns and that, I'm thinking, oh yeah, they're trying to train me to be like one of them, you know, like, it was just too much for me. Maybe 10, 15 years later, yeah, but anyway, that's that. Hang on to them ones.